So, of course, so it depends on your situation.
But what you don't do is just react to what happens. You sit down and talk about the nature of everybody's relationship, and you know how you're supposed to respect the step parent, but the step parent has to earn your love, and you allow the natural parent to take the lead with the discipline, and you follow along. Talk about it outside their earshot, but don't come in there slinging and showing you're showing your less than loveliness.
Okay. Now, another question I have is, now once you get married, once you say I do and you're settling into the marriage, what are the typical mistakes you make in the first couple of years? Or are there no typical mistakes?
The mistakes can be as different as every couple, but they tend to have a theme. Oftentimes they don't discuss the little things, the logistics of everybody has a way of doing business. Everybody has a way of conducting their business in their bedroom, in their bathroom, in their kitchen. This is how it's done. When they pay bills, do you wait till the second? Is it not due to the second notice, or is the first notice written? All of those little things, and you do things the way you do things because it's right, because you believe it's right. But really, it's only the way you do things. So both of you are going to fight. This is right. This is right. When neither one of you are. So you don't sit down and talk about what you do, why you do it, and how we can compromise on getting it done. That's a small irritant. You don't talk about how you're going to keep things fresh, because in the beginning it's fresh, but it's not going to always stay fresh. So you have to put something in early. They talk about date night. Usually once they talk about establishing date night, the love is already gone. So you got to establish early, so it's not in an attempt to rescue. You got to talk about how you're going to have a community, have a conversation, and how you're going to resolve arguments. I'd like to have a little space in the house. This is our chair. In this chair, we don't yell, we don't call names. I give you 5 minutes, you give me 5 minutes. We hold hands. We talk about what's wrong. And you also have to learn how to time an argument. Don't talk when you're mad.
Oh, that's a great question that I was actually getting ready to get into. Because on your show, you actually do talk about fighting fair.
Right.
A lot of times couples on your show, they get into arguments and they'll bring it up 3 years later, 4 years later.
Never get over it.
What is the best way to be like, okay, you know what, that was like 6 years ago, we're not fighting about it anymore. Like, what's the best way to...
It's the first thing that you have to do is resolve it at the time. I think a lot of people will say, well, I said I was wrong, so that's enough. But if you were, I'm sorry, I know it hurt you. You address the other person's pain, you address the other person's hurt, and that way they can put a period on it a little better, so they don't. They've been made to feel better, so they don't have to keep bringing it up. And then once someone has touched your heart that way, to say I'm sorry and to acknowledge your pain and all that, you really do need to let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you going to live in that pain, or are you going to live past it? It's up to you.
Okay. And of course, the couples on the show are getting younger and younger now. And they're having families, but the biggest thing that you say to them is, well, do you have a job? Are you working? What do you do? So when it comes to these young people and they want to get married, or even older couples that haven't established financial security, what would your first initial plan or advice for them to be?
They need to learn what it is to be an adult. In other words, my father, it was so funny, it was cute. My father wrote me a letter when I was in college, and he was talking about money, the stocks that he bought for us. I was 18, but he had bought stocks, and what would be the best investment to do at this point in time in buying me life insurance. A lot of people's parents don't do that. They don't teach them about money. They don't talk about money. They don't talk about the real cost of a loan. They don't talk about how much you can afford. Just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford it. You don't know what the cost of credit is and how much you need. If you don't have that, if somebody in your family hasn't got that, you find somebody. Got look. Don't take advice on money from people who don't have any. Find somebody who's got their act together, sit down and figure out what it takes to live, and understand that you need to live beneath your means. If it's all show and no go, you'll never get anywhere.
Okay, and again, back to the book, because it's also based off the book you originally wrote about Mother's Rules. Right. Now, when it comes to these rules, how do you know which rule applies to what, or even if you're even following these rules?
The rules are kind of like, they're not so much rules about conduct, they're rules about how you feel and perspective and how you look at things. So you read the whole book and you can take you know, one rule from here and one from there. Some rules are just about how you decide how you're going to feel about something, or how to put a period on pain, or how to motivate yourself and other people. So all of those rules can be used in a whole lot of different circumstances.
Okay, and again, because you are a divorce court judge, and you have worked in domestic violence cases and things like that, especially on the show, you see them from time to time. Do you think that divorce rates have a more impact on that because of domestic violence?
No, I think domestic violence is a scourge that's running throughout society. I think dating violence is huge. I mean, you wouldn't think it, but kids that are, you know, girls and boys in high school are getting beat up by their boyfriends and girlfriends. So it's a power thing, and it's you know, it used to be cloaked more in a marriage situation because it was hard to get out of a marriage, and now you can do that more often. And now the police and the judiciary all take domestic violence more seriously, but they didn't used to. But it's a you have to learn how to treat other people. You have to teach your boys in a way that it doesn't feel right to hit a woman. You have to teach girls what the signs of a potential abuser are, and you got to watch for it the other way around, because it does happen the other way around as well.
Now, what's the best advice to give to, because you say this all the time to the men on your show, your daughters are watching this, your sons are from here. What advice or steps does a parent take?
Make sure they're not in your business. You don't need to know what
they're watching. So say the mother does it, she does separate herself. How, or what advice would you give to her, to the children? Now, what daddy did was wrong. What mommy did was wrong. Now, this is how
mommy and daddy loved each other, but we just couldn't get along. It has nothing to do with you. Never talk about what he did or she did, no matter how bad it was. Don't get them involved and he did this and I did that and all of that. Mommy and daddy made a joint mistake together, and that's why we can't stay together anymore. But we both love you, and we're going to demonstrate that love to you in the following way.
Okay. Now, of course, upcoming season, of course, you have newer couples, newer stories. A lot of times we get caught up in movies. We get caught up into the whole celebrity lifestyle. Do you think that's where our falsehood comes from? Like like you said before, we want everything to be perfect. We want everything to be right. So do you think that maybe that's where a lot of our falsehood comes in from? Like the guy comes in, it's raining, and he's going to come save you.
I think a lot of us get that fairy tale from the movie. There is no, movies always end with the guy getting the girl and everybody, it doesn't end any other way. I mean, every once in a while, but it exacerbates, it sells that dream, and it isn't like that. It just isn't like that.
So what do you think would be, now of course we talked about like what to think about before you even ask someone to marry you. We talked about, of course, what you should think about when you do get married. But what do you do when you hit that rough spot and it seems like you got maybe a year left? Or maybe a day.
I hear you. And I tell you, and my husband and I, you know, in 23 years we've had those rough spots, and what you do is, there's a couple of things. Get a second set of eyes on the matter, because you two are so immersed in how you feel about things, you can't really see what's going on. If you've tagged your husband as a jerk and he's tagged you as an idiot, that everything you do is going to be seen in that context. So you have to look out beyond that. And then what you have to do is do something different. You know, we're in a bad place. Let's go somewhere nice, sit down. We won't talk about this other thing. We'll just talk about this one thing. Let's change this. And don't expect everything to get okay all at once. You take care of this little problem over here. You take this little, and take enough pressure off that we can, we can see this one and we can see the next one. And if what you're not doing if what you're doing isn't working, do something else. Don't just do it again.
And you see a lot of legal separations now. They'll say, 3 to 6 months, separate, going your own way. Does that make things worse a lot of times? Now you're separated.
I think so. I mean, that's just me, and I don't have any studies to prove that and all that kind of stuff, but I just think that, now, it's good to separate if your union has gotten so static and angry that you can't be in the same room and be comfortable, because we can't have that. But I think that, because when people get separated, they get to date. I mean, but we were broken up then. We had left. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, they're out the door with somebody else. I think that makes the problems much worse.
Which you actually do see a lot on your show. A lot of people will say, you know, we separated, I wasn't with her, it happened outside of her.
That's how that other baby came along while we in it. It's just, it's common. But.
So, and then my next question would be, when it comes to really stepping back from the situation, not so much separation, but just separating yourself mentally to say, okay, I'm going to come back to this, this is what I have to do. What are the first steps you ask yourself? Like, do you say, well, this is how I feel about it, or do you say, okay, what can I do to fix this? Like, what's the first
thing you do is what's really happening.
Okay.
You know why you're angry, but you got to sit down and think about what's he really doing that's making me angry, or what's she really doing that's making me angry, and decide if it's really them or what it is about it. And it might not be the behavior as a whole, it may be a piece of the behavior. Yeah. So you really got to break it down into what is really bothering me and what am I angry about, or what am I afraid to say. Is there something I can't say to him? Then you go to a marriage counselor so you can have a third party to allow you to say what it is you need to say. The first step is always figuring out what is the real problem here. And rarely is it what you're arguing about. It's never what you're. That's usually something else altogether.
Okay, so there's always an underlying issue to arguments.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, see that I didn't know. I always thought like normally if you're mad, you would think that would be what you're mad about. But
not all. Most of the time, no. There's other stuff going on.
And the next question I would have is, when it comes, because I've seen this a couple of times where it'll be an ex, or it'll be a friend that's probably too close to the situation. How do you separate her? When do you say, you know what, babe, I really don't like how close she is, or I don't like how close he is? Is there an appropriate time to say that, or?
There's an appropriate time to say that, and the appropriate time is not when they're getting ready to go out or where they've just been out. The appropriate time to say it is you've had a nice meal, you're feeling good about one another, and what you say is, I know you like so-and-so. Let me tell you how that makes me feel.
Okay.
And then you say, I feel uncertain, I feel unsure. Could you, and then make a specific request. I know you have a right to talk to them on the phone, but don't go out drinking with them. Do you love me enough for that? It didn't have anything about doing with trusting you. It has to do with about my comfort level and my needs. Where do you stand?
And especially a lot of times on your show, you see people who have jobs or professions that they do, the spouse doesn't like it.
Right.
So it's like, but it's making money, it's putting roof over the head, it's taking care. So how would you go about that? A lot of times, depending on what the job is, you will say you can't do it a different way, you can't find another job within that. So for the couples that can't, this is all they know.
Yeah, as long as it's legal, and you aren't bringing in any money, the person who's bringing in money got to bring in money. You can't get mad about the way somebody puts food in your mouth, as long as it's legal. Now, if you really don't like what they're doing, you know, you go out there and get your act together and bring some money in the house, or assist them to get some schooling, or you get some schooling to change the situation. But people have to eat.
Yeah.
People have to eat.
And also, seeing how you've worked in so many different types of domestic violence and things like that, what do you think, especially now that you've seen, has the world gotten better, or do you think it's getting almost to a slant where it's getting worse?
I think people are getting thin-skinned. I think people are getting angry quickly. I think that their anger is heightened. I think we get insulted easily. I think everybody's feeling I should never have my feelings hurt. They get insulted, and I think that we want to be happy all of the time. We don't know how to fall and feel good about the fact that you got up, and instead of focusing on the fall. And I think we could be a little more sturdy.
Okay. So obviously, between the book that recently came out on the 15th, which you do have to go get, and Mother's Rules.
Right, my Mother's Rules.
So. And then upcoming season, which is actually, you're getting ready to start filming now, or?
I've already filmed it.
You already filmed it? Okay.
It starts September 3rd.
Okay, September 3rd.
Right.
Make sure you're tuning in. You can't miss this show. It's hilarious, but it's educational. And I've actually seen sometimes we actually tell people, wait, hold on. Because a lot of things they do get ridiculous.
They get straight up ridiculous.
So how do you actually, and I've seen you laugh sometimes, or at least try not to smile.
Right.
How do you do that? Like, do you have to, when you get off the bench and you go back, do you like I can't believe she said that.
I do that.
Oh, you do?
I really do. Me and Joe. Can
Yeah.
you believe he said that? I said, can you believe? He says, I saw your face. Yeah, no, we do.
Okay.
Because sometimes it is unbelievable.
Okay, because that's one I've always wondered. Because like they take the camera off you and you have to.
This is water, by the way. It's in a beer cup, but it is water. I'm just letting you know.
I wonder what she's thinking. Did
Yeah,
she really just say that?
sometimes I do get laugh, and Joe and I look at each other and think, ooh, you know. So.
And they bother him a lot. They always try to pull him in.
They bother Joe.
And
yeah.
you just leave Joe alone. Leave Joe alone.
It's all I can do to get him to show up as it is, because this is not his cup of tea. I mean, he's easy, you know, he's a real sheriff and all this stuff, and he loves it, and he loves the show and all this kind of stuff, and he don't want to get involved in any of that nonsense.
Okay. Well, is there anything you want to let the people know before we go? Any additional? I know the two books. Okay.
I'm on Twitter at Real Judge Lynn, and I'm there every day fooling around and having fun, and I'm on Facebook at Judge Lynn Toler of Divorce Court, and I post pictures every day, and I talk to folks, and we have a good time. Okay.
Well, Judge Lynn Toler, Divorce Court. And of course, don't forget, the books are already out, so make sure you get a copy, and thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed myself.